Well, Happy New Year to everyone, and thanks for joining us on Conversations with Marianne. I'm Marianne Okon, and I'm a broadcast journalist reporting live from Lagos, the economic capital of Nigeria. And on today's conversation, we are going to be looking at the Gambia. I always talk about issues coming from Africa, and every time we pinpoint a particular country, a city, or an area in Africa, we're talking about issues from those areas because there are matters arising, issues that are affecting us, and sometimes stories that are underreported. And today I'm going to be joined by two gentlemen from the Gambia, one a legislator and another an activist and an advocate. These two gentlemen are going to walk us through what's going on in Gambia. But before we do that, let me give you a background into what's happening. Once again, Happy New Year to everyone who's watching. We're grateful to see another year. Just like yesterday, we were just saying 2020, and today we're in 2021. Now, the Gambian president, Adama Barrow, has been gearing up to seek for re-election in the country's 2021 presidential elections. Now, he had ignored protests from people in his country asking that he steps down because he did promise that he was only going to serve 3 years as a transitional government and then step down for proper democratic processes to take place in the country. Now, Barrow affirmed his intention to remain in office for his full term and is setting the stage for re-election and the preservation of strong presidential prerogatives. Now, this is the subject of today's conversation. My guest, I'll start with the one who's already here, Ma Yang. Ma is the executive director of Gambia Participates. Ma, it's good to have you join us. Grateful that the internet is letting us, do this. Thank you so much for joining us. Oh, and then he dropped off. Unfortunately, we lost him. But I think he's coming back. So we're just going to jump right into this. My second guest is a legislator for Kanifing Municipality. He's a legislator there. He's also the National Secretary General of the United Democratic Party in Gambia. As soon as he joins us, he will be part of the conversation. But Ma, I'll start with you. Thank you once again for joining us. We know that the internet services that we have today is not the best, but we're going to manage. I hope you can hear me. Thank you for joining us. Oh dear. Ma, can you hear me? Okay, and also joining us is Kemo. I just did give you a little background into Kemo. Kemo is a legislator in the Kanifing, I hope I'm pronouncing it right, Kanifing Municipality, and he's also the National Secretary General of the United Democratic Party in Gambia. Thank you so much, Kemo, for joining.
You're welcome.
Kemo,
how are you doing?
Great. All right. Thank you for joining us. Mar is having a little issue with his internet, but I'll start with you because you are someone who works in the government and you are part of the political party that the president, Adama Barrow, belongs to. What is driving the discontentment within the people of the Gambia? What exactly is making people so angry with President Adama Barrow?
I think to start with, I think you've seen how it has been difficult for myself and Mar to even connect to the live. I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of people are, dissatisfied with the system that we have in place. The country has deteriorated from where it was 4 or 5 years ago, and this was not what we set out to do when we came out in 2016 to cast our ballots. It's important to also consider the Gambia's political history, considering where we started off. In 1965, a country of less than 300,000 people gained independence from Britain. We have had 2 governments before 2016, which was Sadauda Kairaba Jawara, who served for 30 years. Later on, we had President Jammeh, who was the authoritarian leader we had, who also served for 22 years. My party, the United Democratic Party, was a party that was born out of a discontent to also fight against the system put in place by the 1994 coup that brought Jammeh into power. For us, it was the democratization of the Gambia, it was the respect of fundamental human rights, and it was to make sure that the Gambia goes back into a democratic footing. In April 2014, the person that I replaced in the national executive Honorable Solo Sandeng, set out to ask for electoral reforms against the government of the Gambia, and he was murdered in cold blood. In April 16, our leadership, led by Honorable Usaino Dabo, went out to ask for the body of Solo, dead or alive. And they were also locked up, and they were sentenced to 3 years in prison. Replaced him, were put in prison. And that was how Adama Barrow came on to become the flag bearer of the United Democratic Party, which is our party. And we went, the coalition was set, and we won the primaries, and he became the flag bearer of the coalition. But before he became the flag bearer of the coalition, he had to resign from the party, as that was one of the requirements of the coalition government, that the candidate would serve as an independent coalition president, even though he came from a parent party. We went to the convention, and we came to the elections and we won. But the UDP stance, or the Gambia stance, has been that the debate of 305, agreed, and Adama's urge to keep on to power for another term, even though that the agreement was that he was going to serve for one term alone. This has been why Gambians, especially the younger generation, have come out to say that we do not want Adama Barrow. Last year we saw that there was a demonstration that happened called the 3 years Jotna, which was 3 years its time, reminding him of his promises he made when he was to become the president.
Talking about promises, I'm sorry to jump in there. Talking about promises, when he came into office in 2017, he made promises which people were supposedly to hold him to. He offered to create a level playing field for everyone. He promised to bring some form of, he said he was going to reconcile, factions in the Gambia. He also promised to create job opportunities. I want to know, which of these things has he been able to do in the past 3 years? Has he fulfilled anyone? I mean, can we completely say that Adama Barrow did not fulfill any of his promises, or has he even done something that we can actually point to?
Unfortunately, in as much as it's terrible and sad to say, the president hasn't been able to fulfill any of his promises. One of the promises was also that we were going to have a new constitution that would usher in a new republic. Even with that, he failed. We were not able to get the constitution passed, which was just the recent one. He also promised that we were going to have the security sector reforms, which after 4 years, we haven't still been able to have that. And we still have the economic forces in the country, who are his close protection, and they have been here for the past 4 years. Another one was the civil service reform, which we haven't still done. The people that were even found guilty by the commissions of inquiry are still serving in the government. The current minister of finance, Mamburi Njai, was found to be guilty by the commission of inquiry for economic crimes. He is still he was reinstated back in as the minister of finance 2 years ago. Another person is the chief protocol, or the chief of staff, one could call it, of the State House, was also found guilty by the commission of inquiry, and he's still serving as the chief of protocol to the president. And a lot of, for example, we have seen that the economy has, even without the impact of COVID-19, before the impact of COVID, we saw how the economy was not doing very well. Considering that we had the goodwill of the international community, one would think that the Gambia's economy would at least boost, considering that we are also a country of just 2 million people. But it has been, one could call it, from the frying pan to the fire, and things have been really terrible in the past 3 to 4 years. And for us as a party, when we set out in 2016, it was to change the system. It was to change, not just to change. And today, this is why we broke away with him. We couldn't imagine, even though you were one of us, that you would continue the system that was put in place. We told him that we wanted a change. The Gambia deserves that change, and we cannot continue to support him on his drive to become a self-perpetuating ruler who would continue to abuse the Gambians and who will continue to economically disadvantage Gambians. Today, we have seen that he has increased his salary by 50% as the president of the republic. Every single day, he's spending almost $150,000 on feeding alone at the State House, and $150,000 is even above the annual Gambians' income. an average annual income. So these are things that are very unfortunate, and these are things that we didn't vote for. And I think this is why the dissatisfaction has been on the rise, and nobody can pinpoint to you what the president has done, which has been one of his initiatives. Most of the initiatives that he has commissioned also were all initiatives that were done or that were started by the former government. Even the
Okay.
national development, we as
Okay,
a
I will
country.
come back to you because I want to talk about the role of the legislature in all of this. But Mar has joined us successfully. So let me go to Mar now. Mar, you belong to a group of people who your job is to follow the money. Your job is to make sure that there's some form of accountability by people who are public office holders. And in Gambia, you seem to sit on that table. So I did talk to Cable about the dissatisfaction amongst the people in the Gambia, but there seems to be a worry of sorts that, the president may become as dictatorial as his predecessor, since he has decided to continue to stay on that seat. And Kemal just said something about $150,000 spent just for government house,
150
cost.
dollars.
Honorable Kemal, yes, yes, yes. How $150,000? Is that what you said?
Dollars.
Dollars. Okay, $150,000. Okay, great. So, Mar, how does your group follow the money? How do you get accountability from this kind of leadership where it seems to be that every promise that has been made has been broken? The people seem not to be able to put a finger on what he's done, but then monies are expended, but no accounts is given. What are you doing in that regard? Can you hear us? We can't see your face.
Thank you, Mary. And I think Kim was already given a background of the context of this conflict.
Mar, it's unfortunate we can't see your face.
Can you hear me?
Okay, we can hear you now. Go ahead.
Can you hear me, Mary?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. I said I think Kim has already given about a political background of where the Gambia came from and where it is. When it comes to the issue of accountability and how public wealth are being managed and how they have been accounted, I think that's one of the things that this country is being struggled with. Kemo did mention of the $150,000, which is about $3,000 that the president's house spent a day on feeding alone. This is something that we have been, looking into the national budget. Every year, you will get to see the office of the president get its budget on the increase. And in 2019, I believe there was a budget proposal that was tabled before the National Assembly, and then the president wanted to have four advisors. I mean, the parliament has to say that they are not going to accept that. But mathematically, if you put a budget item for four advisors, and then the parliament advise you to reduce it to two, or to maintain the two that you have, if you take off the cost and the budget item for that particular two advisors, then you will have the budget going down. But unfortunately, the systematic way they do prepare this budget is done in a way that they have removed the two proposed advisors, but the total amount still remains the same, which is a systematic way of ripping off the people and the taxpayers. So if I can put it this way, the expenditure framework of this country is built in a way where you have 90% or 80% of our budget goes into recurrent expenditure, and the remaining goes into capital development. And that's the reason why development is hardly see growing in this country, because the money that is supposed to bring in development goes into parium, goes into salaries, goes into political activities, and the people are clapping for such. So these are some of the things that put this country on a standstill when it comes to development. So for us, we have also seen another move that the parliament has taken. So this is not only about the president; it is the government as an institute, right? The way our appropriation is being, developed is developed in such a way that it suits the interests of those in power than the average Gambian in rural Gambia who does not actually have access to potable drinking water, basic healthcare, or education. For example, this year, the National Assembly of the Gambia, um, the role of the parliament force is to do oversight on the budget when it is tabled 30 days before the end of the fiscal year, as per the constitution. And what they do, the oversight role is that they will have to make adjustment and make cuts, right? But it
Mhm.
has not been public. It's not a public knowledge, or in fact, it might not be in the history of the country where we have seen the parliament creating a budget line item for their own interest, which is also in contravention to Section 112 of the 1997 Constitution. So what they have done this year, when the appropriation was tabled before them, a parliamentarian moved a motion for a $54 million budget line item to be created for as a loan scheme for the parliamentarians. So for us at Gambia Participate, what we have done, we demystify or decode that 54 million and how it could have been translated into development and how many people could have benefited from it. So based on our estimates, we believe that 54 could have actually given 380,000 Gambians access to potable drinking water and then basic healthcare. And then we have not stopped at that level because what we have realized also, they have flouted or they have violated the constitution, and they've also bypassed the procedures that should have been taken in order to create a budget item. Basically,
Hmm.
in our budget system, the executive prepares the budget and give it to the parliament. The parliament does oversight, but they don't
Mhm.
actually ask a budget item, right? That has been the norm. And legally, what we have done is to take this matter to the Supreme Court to number one, ask one injunction so that this 54 million will not the accountant general will not authorize the payment of this 54 million to the parliament. And then also we have also asked for the Supreme Court to give us an interpretation whether this action is legal or is unconstitutional. So this is one of the steps that we have taken, and then the case has been filed to the Supreme Court on the 19th, I believe. The case is going to be heard on the 19th of January, 2021. So
Okay. Okay. Let me
we have
come in
been
there.
doing these advocacies, trying to put the government to tax by following the money, tracking where they have been expending the public wealth. And when we detect the communities that are supposed to benefit from it, when we go to these
Mhm.
communities and realize, I will give you one example. During this COVID-19 pandemic, there was a government emergency response funds of 512 million that was locally sourced from the national budget. So what they have done, they reprioritized budget allocations to focus on, preventing the spread of the virus. So within a space of 3 weeks, they said they have spent 143 million, and they have given the public the information regarding where they have spent the money. So we went
Mhm.
out to check if that is really authentic, and what we have found out is basically the health officials already plan how to share the cake within themselves by creating fraud allowance lists, putting in the names of their spouses, some their friends, and some names that are actually not in the health system. So we flagged that in our report called Corona, the Gambia, and the Millions, which you can actually download from our website at gambiaparticipate.org. We also
Okay.
identified
Thank
the
you, Mark.
so-called
Mark, I'll come back to you. Let me quickly just.
COVID-19 treatment centers that have been identified by the government of the Gambia.
Mark, can you hear me?
And when we went to these identified
Okay.
COVID-19 treatment centers, we realized one of those isolation centers in URR is not even fit for an insane person to live. talk less of a sick person. Because number one, the toilet is totally not hygiene. It's as if it is a haunted house, and you have 126 staff in that particular health center, and you supply them with only 6 hand sanitizers out of 126 staff. How do you expect the staff to be protected? And we flag to say if the nurses are not given the necessary protection and the PPEs, they could actually be affected by the virus. 2 months, 3 months later, we've seen a sort of COVID-19 in the health system where frontline health workers were affected because the necessary protection was not there. So what we also realized is the government, with the money that they have identified, regional health directorate, especially in Lower River region, has to contact the IOM to give them $1,000 for them to be able to move around and then do the necessary work that they're supposed to do in order to ensure that they do surveillance. The government was not actually giving them the money. And this, as part of the report, they said part of it was given to, part of it was expended on healthcare. We also realized that the government of the Gambia,
I'm gonna have to bring Kemo back in. Mar, I don't know if you can hear me, but I would like to bring back Kemo.
Either from the GLF, which is the government local fund, or all funds, they always use part of it to buy project cars.
I don't think
this pandemic, even if they are notorious of doing such, what we
expect from Mar, I think you can't hear me, so I'm gonna go ahead and ask the question to Kemo. Kemo, I'm just going to bring you back in to answer this, because he spoke a lot about the fact that the legislature is unable to add anything to the budget when it is submitted. You only have oversight functions. I know that you are at the municipal level, but of course, budgets are drawn at different levels of government. Aside from that, there have been reports that there's been a failure of constitutional and political reforms, and they have said that these are some of the things that the president has failed to do, because this is one of the promises he made, and he's also capitalized on those failures to continue to stay in office. And they're also suspecting that he might also use some of those loopholes to ask for an extension of his term, because I know that generally you have a 5-year term, but he chose to do 3. He promised to do 3 because he wanted to transit that government into a proper democratic process. What is the legislature again doing? I don't want to believe that you have a rubber stamp legislature in the Gambia that is unable to really do anything but just bow to, the needs and the want of Mr. President. Yeah. And you have said that the president used to be a member of your political party. What happened, and why did you fall out with him?
I think these are the reasons why we fell out with him. And just in 2017, when he got into office, his wife got entangled into a $35 million or $700,000 fraud case, where a Chinese company put $700,000 into her account. And these are all things that the party wasn't happy with, and a lot of things that are going around. And when you look
Kim, are you there? We really can't hear you right now.
But we don't. Okay, let me just take.
Yeah. Go ahead. Now we can hear you.
Excuse me. Can you hear me? Hello? Can you hear me now?
Okay, hello? We can hear you now. Go ahead.
Hello? Hello?
Yeah, just go ahead, but we can hear you.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yes, just go ahead. Go ahead.
Yes, so what I was saying is that from 2017, a lot of corruption cases have happened where the president or his wife has been entangled into corruption, $100,000 into his wife's account, and the wife claimed that she didn't know where the money came from. And talking about a lot of reforms that have taken place, it's important to know that even though we have majority in parliament as the United Democratic Party, we do not have the majority to pass anything without the support of other parties or other caucuses. And a lot of these our members have been very strong. Members of the United Democratic Party have been very strong when he was trying to bribe members of the parliament, because he has tried to bribe members of the parliament by giving them money monthly. Members of the UDP were the ones who came up and said that this is going on and it has to stop. When the new constitution was put into parliament to be read, all members of the United Democratic Party voted for the new constitution. It was members of other parties that didn't vote for it because he already has them supporting him. So even though we have the 23 seats, we were not able to get the number that we needed to pass the new constitution. And he did that purposely because there were things in the new constitution that wouldn't let him continue, because this term would have been counted as his first term, which is one. Mm-hmm. Two, that when appointing ministers, that it would have to go through the parliament. He didn't also want that. And also in the new parliament, there were term limits. And also it really empowered the legislator and also the judiciary. Gambia has a problem of weak institutions. And this is something that happens because that happens in any country that has gone through a dictatorship, especially ours, where we went through a dictatorship for 22 years. And because the constitution is a written document that sets out the basic rights and freedom of the people living in the country and the way that the country is run. Yahya Jammeh set the constitution in a way that it made him, it totalitarianized the country. It made it a one-man state. It made him the authoritarian leader that Adama wants to be now. And he was able to do that because the constitution gave him those powers. So Barrow, getting into government, realized that, okay, if the constitution doesn't change, I can be another powerful man like Jammeh was. And this is why he doesn't want to change the constitution. Members of the United Democratic Party, even though not perfect, and this is, I think this is one of the most active national assemblies that we have seen, but we still have shortcomings, and it's because the institution itself is not, is weak and is not strengthened. Members of the National Assembly members in the Gambia are the lowest paid National Assembly members. They receive less than $1,000. Just it is this government that they were able to get vehicle allocations so that they could use them, and other things. So because they are poorly paid, everybody in the Gambia is poorly paid, unfortunately, except the president. And it shows why poverty is so stricken, and it's easy to get your way around things in a country like ours. So these are some of the challenges that we have had. But the UDP has always put out a statement and has always shown that we are dissatisfied with the way the country has been running since we broke off with him. And just a few days ago, he's currently on a tour, a 30-day tour, and taking around ministers to meet the people, which should have been a constitutional requirement. But he has politicized it in a way that he is politicking it and trying to make it a political campaign and a rally. A member of the member for Bundung constituency, Bakari Njai, he stood on that he stood at the chambers and asked him to refund the money that he is using for the tour, because it's supposed to be a Meet the Farmer store, but he has politicized it. So members of the UDP in parliament have always put out a stance to show that they are dissatisfied with the way things are going, but in the end, he has been able to succeed to get other parties to support him. For example, the current minister of tourism's party has 5 seats in parliament. You have the PPP, who he has been able to get to into bed with him, have 2 members, and he has had other members. Even we expelled some MPs because they were not functioning as they should have, and we expelled them, and he has been able to get them in his camp.
So it shows that, bottom line, that the president is having a tough time.
Yes.
So it shows, bottom line, that the president is having a tough time and is getting good opposition. But I want to bring Ma back into this conversation. I hope you can hear me, Ma. There have been also talks that the president has somewhat given money to youth groups, youth movements, starting youth movements in his name and that of his wives. In other words, because of the kind of opposition that he's getting, he has been paying certain people to start a movement of sorts for him. And when youth come to play, especially when we're asking for good governance in Africa, it does raise a cause for worry. What is the percentage of young people who really are supporting the president and what he's doing. What does that also say about the future of the Gambia?
Is that for me or for Mar?
It's for Mar.
Oh, okay.
Mar, we can't see you. We're seeing the floor. Yes, we can see you now. Go ahead. Unfortunately, Ma, we cannot hear you. Well, we really want to apologize for the internet connection today. It's been really bad, unfortunately, but we're trying our best. Ma, can you hear me? Can you speak up if we can hear you, hopefully?
I don't know if you can.
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay, I don't know, maybe if you can turn off my camera, that would be best, because I've been moving from one place to another. I don't know. The internet, as Kemo said, is just really, really bad. So,
yeah.
Okay, I think, as I said, one of the things that African leaders have been smart in doing in order to get young people to rally behind them is to buy unpatriotic young people. And if I can put it this way, the reason why I said they are unpatriotic, because they know the poverty level that is affecting young people, and they know how to get them supported by bribing them. So what this government and the former president Jammeh have been, I'll give you the history. The former president created a youth group called Green Boys, right? Green, which represents his party color, and he has been getting these thousands of young people to run behind him wherever he goes in the country. Now, we expect that this was going to be the thing of the past. When this president came, he also established what you call the Borough Youth Movement, and they are just a replica of the youth, I mean, the green youth that we are praising and singing and dancing for President Jammeh. So what he has done, he bought them motorbikes, right? He bought vehicles, pickups, and then opened an office, right? And then there comes support from different parts of his partners. I'll give you another example. His wife has a foundation, right? I mean, like the previous government, the wife of the president had a foundation, and is also a replica of that particular practice. And then you have an international partner, TBA, that has transferred about 70,000 US dollars, which is about, I mean,
700,000.
700,000. Thank you for that correction, Kemo. Which is about $35 million to the wife of the president's account. Couple of hours later, that money was withdrawn, and no one knows where the destination of the money has been. Last week, I mean, 2 days ago, the Water and Electricity Company of the Gambia signed a multi-million dollar contract with TBEA. And TBEA has been seen as the highest bidder for that particular contract. Kemo did mention about the Minister of Tourism. There is a contract that the Ministry of Tourism has awarded to a particular civil engineer company to build 5 ecologies. The contract that has been awarded to that particular company, the difference is about $10 million compared to the lowest bidder. The procurement authority advised the government not to, award that contract to that particular company. And the procurement authority also advised the government to look for a consultant that will do a feasibility study and give a cost. The consultant did their study, and they said the total amount that could build 5 ecotourism lodges should not be more than $75 million. The highest bidder, I believe the money, the total amount went up to 92 to 96 million, and the contract was given to him. So this corruption, as someone said, has now been, before it was centralized, now it has been diversified. If I can put it, I mean, it has been decentralized. If I can put it that way. Thank you, Kemo. It has been decentralized to an extent that the highest level that have been caught into corrupt practices cannot hold those at the lower level accountable, due to the simple fact that those in the lower level has information that can actually implicate that of the president. We have seen the president, involved in a consignment where vehicles worth about 20,000 US dollars in their tents, making their way into the Gambia. The president don't have that money. The president's salary from 2017 to date is about um, if I can put $9 million, right? And that $9 million is just his basic. Now there comes his allowances and the per diem that all of them do cry for when they travel outside. Instead of spending 2 days, they will spend more than that. When he came into office, they developed a national blueprint document called the National Development Plan, an ambiguous document. They did not look within to find a way to support the implementation of that particular policy. They went to Brussels and mobilized 1.7 billion US dollars. When they came, they said the goats, the sheep, and every single animal will realize that there is money in this country because they've mobilized that particular amount. But going down the line, just last year, I think since 2017, they were only able to receive 10% of that amount. And so this has been the system has been corrupted in such a way that it has now become a tradition that the government get away with any ill practice that they have done. There is an investigation report that has been done by Environmental Investigative Agency, and this report has also implicated a current Minister of Environment that has been facilitating illicit timber trading. And through this illicit timber trading, compared to the report from the Chinese and other countries that are or continents that have been engaging in this illicit business, the Gambia underreported $472 million, which compared to their counterparts, they actually reported more. So you could actually see in that report how a government minister actually bypassed a ban that has been put in place in order not to save endangered species. And the report is there saying we have the Minister of Health going into Parliament, making an unprecedented report regarding the corruption that is actually going on in his ministry. And he's not the first one. The previous Minister of Health also said corruption is the reason why development of the health sector is on a standstill. They didn't pay heed. The current Minister of Health also said the same thing at the National Assembly. They didn't take action. You have the National Audit Report of 2016 that has also, not only 2016, but even as early as 2017, there was a special audit that was done on a Gambian consulate in the UK, and then also the Simlex contract. If you know about Simlex is one of the notorious biometric providers in this world, if I can put it that way. They have been notorious of bribing officials in Comoros and other countries in order to get government contracts to provide national identity documents.
I'm sorry to talk over you, but this makes me really understand the depth or the seriousness of corruption in the Gambia, and this is detailed for most of our African countries. So I want us to talk about the future here because elections are coming, and this is what your president is gearing up for. And my next question, which is almost my last question to you guys because we're running out of time. How do you intend to handle this situation going forward? Because he's trying to run for office and he's doing everything within his powers to make sure that he gets, that election. And we don't even know if it's going to be free, fair, and credible. How much pressure are the people of the Gambia mounting? Is there foreign intervention? I mean, I know that former President Goodluck Jonathan, former president of Nigeria, has been going back and forth Gambia and reporting to his to the sitting president who sits over ECOWAS. What are the reasonable or feasible actions that you're seeing from the international community and, of course, within that could stop your president from running illegally for this office or manipulating the constitution for his own gains? And what does the future hold? I'll start with you, Kemo, and then, of course, Ma will round this up.
Yeah. Is he going to run? Yes. Is he going to win? No. I think the Gambians have shown that they're dissatisfied with the system. Yeah, I think Mar would agree with me that the young people have really, really, really been dissatisfied with what's going on in the country. And for us, it's more of enfranchising young people. As the National Secretary General of the biggest political party, what I can do is continue to galvanize the young people and show them that it is wrong that our country has gone through what we have gone through, and we cannot continue and we cannot afford. It's expensive for us to afford another 5 years of Adam Barrow ruling. Mar spoke about the corruptions, and he forgot to even mention our deals with the Chinese with the ocean. We have lost the rights to our ocean. The fisheries minister has been caught up in a scandal of over $100,000, where the fisheries ministry was burnt. The records office of the fisheries ministry was burnt to ashes, and nobody knew how the fire started. And for us, it's more of changing the realities. And coming from a disadvantaged background, I think everybody in the Gambia, where majority of us are poor people, know that we cannot continue to see Adama Barrow ruling us for another 5 years. And he's made the people's store has been an eye opener for a lot of people, that the people don't want him anymore, the people don't support him. And he is trying to make sure that he changes that. And like you said, that he has started youth groups to support him. Yes, he has started youth groups, and we know that it's not going to continue because it's not sustainable. You can pay a few people, but you can't pay everyone. And I wanted to disagree with what Mark said about the unpatriotism of the young people. I think he himself mentioned that we are a country of poor people, and like a statement I read somewhere, he said democracy never put food on the table. And until we economically empower people, until we make sure that our people are sustained, people will continue to use us as...
I'm sorry to cut it. Is poverty not supposed to be a motivator instead of a dampener? I mean, I'm just asking, in the case of Gambia, because you're mentioning that you're poor people or democracy doesn't put food on the table, but isn't that supposed to be a motivator so that you can ask for something, for a better life? Because I think this is what we're all fighting for. Am I wrong?
Yes, what I'm trying to put across is that, in as much as that it is it has been a motivator, but also it has been a weakness for a lot of young people. You're talking about a country where majority of young people are unemployed. Even the employed ones are living from hand to mouth. You ask a lot of young people in this country, how many of us have a bank account? Not a lot of us do. So in as much as it's a motive, and it has been working very fine, that we always call for change. But when it's tough and somebody is handing you a bag of rice, it's very difficult for you to disagree. As a social scientist, I like to look at things very subjectively, where I look at the advantages and the disadvantages, and I like to also look at things from the other person's position. And this is why I'm saying that, yes, in as much as it is terrible that the state is doing this, but I don't also blame a lot of them for taking it, because we know how surviving in the Gambia is difficult. And I think this is why, for all of us, it has to be that we set standards. For all of us, it has to be that we make sure that our people do not continue to be enslaved by the people in power, and make sure that they are sustainable and they are sustained, and that sustainability becomes something that independently you can earn for yourself. So until our people are economically empowered, it will be difficult for our predicament to change. But I'm hopeful that the people really, 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 and we've been on tour, we just had our Congress, and the crowd I saw was very convincing, and it's something that I'm very proud of to associate myself with, that Gambians today do not see partisanship as being a sin like it used to be in the past because of fear. But a lot of young people are coming out and identifying themselves with political parties, and also taking an active role in politics. So we are going to continue on that momentum. We are going to continue setting standards, and we're going to continue to empower the young people and enfranchise them, and make sure that come December 4th, we will be able to vote out Adama Barrow.
Okay, thank you very much, Kimmel. Back to you, Mar, if you're still there. My question is going to slightly change for you, because, Mar, are you there?
Yes,
Can you hear
me?
Okay, perfect. It seems to be a recurring thing in Africa, unfortunately. If not 80% of our leaders seem to be either dictatorial or corrupt in a sense. And most of the time, the corruption is so deep that it affects our sense of livelihood. And just as he said, many people in the Gambia are poor, very poor, and all they can think of is how to feed. And so it's easier to bribe, or it's easier to pay a person off. Because, you know, we're not necessarily futuristic. We're just looking for food to fill our stomachs for now. But how long can we continue as Africans to live for the now when we are a very rich continent in the world? So it's unfortunate that we don't have great leaders, and our leadership has been so poor that it has also affected our mindset. Is there a possibility that we can change that mindset, change our perception towards leadership? Because, you know, they always say that, you know, the people are a reflection of, or the leaders are a reflection of the people. Maybe we have to start looking from within to change things, or what do you think is the way forward?
I think I will speak from the Gambian context, and then perhaps it might be the case in some African countries. The African youth have to. I mean, I'm not saying that they are sitting. We need to buckle up, right? And then get to understand the dynamics of the middle age or the older generation in how they do politics. There is a war between the middle age and in that of the younger generation. And what they have done, if you go on social media in many of these countries, right, the ones that are actually campaigning and doing sharing misinformation for these leaders are actually young people, while these elderly people sit in the office and then rip us all off. So what we need to do, especially when it comes to the national, I mean the wealth of our continent and our country, we need to find a way to ensure not only when corruption scandals happens we start talking about them. We need to ensure that we each country put up mechanism from the youth group to ensure that the wealth of the country are well protected. Because if it goes to the wrong hands, then we will end up having cases where hundreds or millions of nairas are allegedly being said that it has been swallowed by a snake. So you don't get to see where the money has been. So from the Gambian context, what I also wanted to talk about the issue of the constitution and how there is lack of president's will or political will to get this constitution into being is the only the reason is simple. This constitution, when enacted, will frustrate the occurrence of corruption in the public sector, will reduce executive autonomy, and then it will strengthen the rule of law and the separation of powers, and the president will not serve as a demigod. This is not in the interest of the president, and the president will no more serve the 15 years that he could serve with this 1997 constitution. Remember, the president said he was going to serve 3 years. He is not a politician, he's a businessman, and then he's going to go back to his business. Just like the previous president said, when he came, it was from 6 months to 2.5 years to 22 years. And from this trend and history, the president, with all the privileges that he has seen in this office, he has no sign of leaving office. So I think what we need to do is to use our votes wisely. Kemo is a politician. I am not. But I'm not going to say for any young people to vote for party A or B. But what we need to do as voters, not only young people, we need to be able to look not only the manifestos. The manifestos could be very catchy and having ambiguous plans, but we also need to look at the caliber of leaders in these political parties. In 2016, unfortunately, what we are desperate to get rid of was the president. The longer term was not well planned, and as a result, we are in this mess. But now that we've got rid of an kleptocratic regime, and then we have a kleptocratic regime in the making, we need to look at, come 2021, who can we trust? Not only trust, but which party has the potential in transforming this country so that the system change that we have been crying for is realized. The reason why, I mean, I know Kim will disagree with me when I said the unpatriotic youth, but what I meant is loyalty should not be given to the president. It should be to the state. So they have been unpatriotic by, surrendering their loyalty to an individual, then to a state, So that's how they become unpatriotic to the government. I mean, the government as the people. So you cannot actually let an individual or a party to sift the the priorities that are supposed to be given to the communities, the money that could have been invested to develop health centers and then also boreholes given to a youth group to facilitate their interest in these particular regions. So
Okay.
they become unpatriotic to the state. So that's
All right.
where I was speaking from.
Well, gentlemen, unfortunately, the internet did not allow us to enjoy much of this conversation, but we've had a very, very interesting conversation. I want to thank you very much, Ma. Ma Yang is actually the executive director of Gambia Participates. Also, Honorable Kemo Bojang is a legislator for the Kanifing municipality in the Gambia, and is also the National Secretary General of the United Democratic Party. I want to thank you, gentlemen. Hopefully next time we'll have good internet to talk, and maybe when we're talking it will be on a better note, and hopefully the people of the Gambia will be on the winning side. Thank you, gentlemen, for having this conversation with me. I appreciate it, and we hope for the best in the future.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you so much. All right. Well, everyone who's been part of the conversation, you can go ahead and retweet these videos. It's going to be on Twitter. It's streaming live on YouTube. It's also going to be on Facebook. Let people who need to be educated about what's happening in the Gambia be part of the conversation. Understand that your rights are at stake and you have to choose your right. We know it's actually unfortunate that a continent as rich as Africa is having to deal with poverty on a daily basis when we have leaders who are supposed to help us become better. Unfortunately, these leaders are not doing that. Well, I want to thank my guests once again for joining me from with us today, but we thank everyone for being here. My name is Mary Anna Kun, broadcasting live from Lagos, Nigeria. Hopefully, when we are back with our next conversation, hopefully we will be going to Namibia to have a conversation about what's happening in Namibia. And hopefully it will not be about corruption, but let's keep talking for development. Have a lovely day.